I challenged myself to build a robot to fight for me in Tears of the Kingdom. I'd like to introduce you to RMD, Robot of Mass Destruction. And just like the name implies, my goal of this challenge was for the robot to do the vast majority of the fighting for me, so I could just sit back, relax, and watch it obliterate some monsters. For some reason, this horse really did not like my robot, so I decided to sick it on him. But my robot is surprisingly friendly to animals. So with that odd start to our journey, we are off to go destroy some monsters. Not only does RMD come with a flame emitter on his right hand and a frost emitter on his left, but also a cannon on his head. He's intelligent enough that he can even point his arms in different directions at the same time. Really, his only big downside is how fast he runs out of battery. But boy, when he gets cooking, he has no mercy. He'll just track enemies down and make sure they're dead. You'll notice that the cannon is actually on the top of his head now, instead of pointing downwards on the front of his head like before. I had to make this change because he had a tendency of blowing himself up over and over. RMD even works great as a bodyguard. If you have a moblin on your tail, simply trigger him and he'll start protecting you. Occasionally, if he is faced the wrong way, he'll start to get confused and not know where the enemy is. So occasionally I had to flip him around using ultrahand, but he got right back to work as soon as he knew where the enemy was. Look at him, isn't he freaking epic? Yeah, we're still working out the kinks. He has a little bit of problem with friendly fire. I like how in this one, when I activated him, his first instinct was to go directly for the moblin's toes for critical damage. I mean, who's gonna fight properly if they have frosty toes, right? If there's anything I did right when programming this dude, it's to make him absolutely relentless when going after somebody. RMD lives by the motto, always beat a dead horse, unless it comes to the actual horses. I thought it would be funny to bring him right into the middle of the big monster camp while all of them were sleeping, and see just how much of the monster forces he could destroy by himself. I was trying to stay low and out of his way, so I didn't take another cannonball to the face. And as you can see, by the time he was finally running out of battery, he had already taken out about 1/3 of the monsters all by himself. I took the moment to take out a few of the monsters myself while his battery recharged, but almost died, which would be really bad, because if you do die, he despawns completely. He almost reminds me of Iron Man in Iron Man 1 with his first suit, where he's just lighting everything up with his flamethrower. One other thing I had to be careful of was that if I got too far away from him, he would just shut down by himself. So I needed to stay within range, but also out of the way of his mass destruction. And just like that, he had annihilated the entire monster base with minimal help from me. So I decided it was time that we step it up a notch and fight an even bigger and badder base. The bokoblins were pretty intrigued when they saw me bringing a massive robot to their doorstep. And RMD was not about to let anybody come across the bridge. So after blowing up everybody at the entrance, we decided to continue our infiltration into the base. Right away, RMD got to work, and he honestly was getting a little bit distracted with the first two bokos. I kind of had to redirect his attention a bit. Unlike the last base, this base had a white bokoblin and a boss bokoblin in it, so I knew this would be more of a challenge for RMD. But he was facing it like a champ. I honestly got a bit bored, so I decided to pitch in a little bit and start shooting them in the face. I just had to be really careful not to die so that RMD wouldn't despawn. Eventually his battery was recharged and I was able to tag him back in to help with the fight again. And he was on both of them in seconds. It still blows my mind that he can just multitask this well. And I decided to help him out by baiting the boss bokoblin to walk back into his frost emitter. With him down, all we had left was the white bokoblin to finish off this monster camp. and RMD was not gonna let him off the hook that easy. Somehow, RMD is so destructive and yet so goofy and ungraceful at the same time. As a trophy of our victory, I decided to mount this giant spiky ball to his chest to add to his destructive power. And so we were off to find our next victims. And yet again, the animals of Hyrule were showing that they absolutely hate robots. I guess they don't want AI to take over. I unleashed RMD on the next monster camp I found, but immediately there were some big problems. First, his explosion blew off his left arm, which rolled down the hill and froze me. And then soon afterwards, he lost his right arm as well. If we were gonna win this one, I was gonna have to do some mid-battle surgery. So while avoiding some bokoblin arrows to my right, I quickly picked up his arm and reattached it. It wasn't quite at the right angle, but hey, it was better than nothing. Because of RMD's injuries, I knew I was gonna have to pick up the slack a little bit on this fight. So I kept the monsters plenty busy while RMD recharged. But once he was up and running again, he was ready to unleash absolute death upon this boss bokoblin. He started lighting him on fire, but just like before, soon his arm fell off. He still had his cannon though, and RMD was not prepared to relent until this boss bokoblin was absolutely annihilated. I kept waiting for him to die, but even after getting hit over and over and over, it seemed like the boss bokoblin was still alive on a tiny bit of health. I'm assuming this was implemented by the developers to get you to actually get into the fight and not just let robots fight for you. So, after pulling out a bow, I decided to finish him off. I removed the spiky ball from his chest because it just was not working. It was finally time to test RMD's abilities in an enclosed space. So far we had only fought in wide open places, but this time I was going to take him into a cave and see what he could do. You might have been thinking to yourself from the last battles, okay, he can hit people if they're straight in front of him, but what about if they're at a completely different angle, like on the ceiling? Well, RMD was proving himself to be incredibly versatile and able to hold his own against monsters in virtually any situation. Monsters hanging around up high are no problem for him. Just a quick reminder that if you guys are enjoying this video so far, hit that subscribe button. I make challenge videos like this for a bunch of different games all the time. The best way to see them first is to be subscribed to the channel. I also read all the comments and I'm always open to suggestions on what game challenges I should do in the future, so let me know. Okay, let's get back into this video. This next fight was so epic, I felt like I was in an action movie sequence. Like I was living a Michael Bay movie. I'll just be quiet so you can appreciate this one for a second. After that banger of a fight, it was time for RMD to face some constructs. That's right, it was time for him to go up against his own people. But just because they were fellow robots doesn't mean that he was about to show them any mercy. He was doing some serious work until he ran out of battery, and then I kind of had to pick up the slack a little bit. While fighting these guys on my own, I actually came very close to dying a couple of times. But I knew all I needed to do was hold out just until RMD's battery was recharged and tag him back in. And that's exactly what I did. But by the time I finally got him back up and running, most of the constructs were already gone. Oh well. Next, I took RMD to a cave and ended up finding a bubble frog in there. But when I used the wall to get bullet time and shoot the bloopy that appears, it turns out you actually can't get any rupees from shooting this bloopy. Come on, man, that's a total ripoff. Did they really assume we weren't going to be fast enough to shoot that thing? I soon realized that RMD had a superpower out here in the desert. When he fought Fire Lizalfos, all he needed to do was get a tiny bit of the ice emitter on them, and they would go up in smoke. And now it is time for RMD's best magic trick. The Lizalfos up ahead have kindly volunteered to participate. Now you see them, now you don't. Ta-da! After a very long journey, we eventually arrived in the Gerudo Desert, and RMD was prepared to do his worst. In fact, for a minute it seemed as if he was about ready to kill me as well. But after munching a million spicy peppers, because I could never be bothered to cook anything in this game, I survived. With this guy, he was just having a fun time. Almost like a game of ping pong where the ball always comes back to you. But, you know, sometimes I can't let him have all the fun. RMD gave this Lizalfos a nice fire shower that I got to watch in slow motion during a flurry rush. And then he blew us all up. In the next battle, he was really going for the spray and pray strategy, which ended up working out surprisingly well. He basically kept them in place so that I could finish them off. It was time for one last battle in the desert, and this one was truly epic, so I'll just let you watch it for yourself. And yes, I eventually died, which also meant the death of RMD. But don't worry, he lives on in my auto build. If you guys enjoyed this video, leaving a like would help me out a lot, and subscribing to the channel will again let you see all my new videos right when they come out. If you'd like an RMD Part 2 video, where I fight even crazier monsters like maybe a Lionel or Gleeok or something, let me know. Or if you would prefer a tutorial on how to build RMD for yourself, I could also make that, so let me know what you guys are interested in the comments below. And I haven't forgotten about all you guys who watch my Pokemon video, and I'd like to make a follow-up to that one as well. I've just run into a lot of issues as I've been making a follow-up to that video, so please be patient with me and hope to have more stuff for you guys soon. Thanks.